Hello everyone, my name is Karina Yaport and today I'll be presenting my internship project implementation assessment project titled Transfer Pathways Awareness and Partner Engagement Initiative. My project really focuses on increasing the awareness and accessibility of Cornell University transfer pathways, specifically for the College of Business, through developing on-demand transfer resources and community and college counselor engagement initiatives. This initiative was really developed as a pilot program focusing on improving the awareness and understanding of the Cornell's transfer opportunities amongst college students within the community college system, as well as particularly to counselors and prospective students. The project is in two components. The first is primarily the development of shorter videos, really focusing on the pathways, admissions explanations, the timeline, and some student support services resources, and again, in a shorter format. And the second component is really on the virtual counselor breakfast. This is a virtual presentation intended to strengthen the relationships that we have with community college advisors while providing direct information as to what we're looking for in the Cornell transfer pathways. This initiative is really focused on the community college experience because Cornell University doesn't typically recruit for four-year institutions. So that is why this particular initiative is geared towards specifically just community college students and their counselors. Research often shows that transfer students often face barriers when attempting to navigate select transfer application processes. One major challenge is the lack of very clear and accessible information and presentation in terms of the transfer eligibility, required coursework, the timeline, and the institutional expectations. Often just the information is only available on the website, but there aren't any on-demand videos that it can be easily accessible to a student that might be wanting to watch the presentation at 9 p.m. because that's the only time they have available between work as well as their classes. Additionally, community college counselors play a significant part in the transfer advising, but often counselors aren't familiar with Cornell specific transfer pathways. And this can vary significantly between institutions, but particularly between the colleges here at Cornell, since the requirements are different. So available resources for both parties is really helpful for them as they navigate through this process. Additionally, Cornell is decentralized when it comes to admissions, so there isn't one specific requirement for every single major that students are thinking about transferring to. So this makes it kind of confusing and sometimes difficult to communicate regarding transfer opportunities and overall expectations for external audiences. So this project is really geared towards and designed to kind of bridge those accessibility gaps. The literature review that I conducted supported this project consistently. It emphasized the importance of transfer advising, institutional transparency, and accessible communication. Researchers such as Faye, Jaggers, Farashkish really highlighted how advising relationships influence transfer aspirations and overall outcomes. Additional researchers really demonstrated how transfer students that are looking at selective schools often perceive the transfer process to be more complicated and more difficult than as an overall perception, not actual reality. The literature also supports the use of more concise, accessible communications, such as online resources, advising engagement, and overall more effective strategies in improving the transfer awareness and overall preparedness for students. In the presenter notes in this slide, you can find the APA citations for the particular researchers that I am noting for this particular section. Again, the primary goal of this initiative is to increase the overall awareness and accessibility of Cornell pathways for both students as transfer advisors. Specific objectives is to have several short transfer explanatory videos regarding the process and overall demystify the admissions process for transfer students, and as well as host a virtual counselor breakfast. And again, this is really aimed to help counselors understand what the transfer expectation is at Cornell. And overall looking to improve overall engagement with both parties in terms of overall resources that are available to them on demand, and to continue creating more pathways for students that are looking to come to a very highly selective school. This project is currently in its implementation phase and has received approval from the department. One of the most significant developments is a partnership with Cornell's marketing and communications team, who has expressed interest in collaborating and improving our transfer related website content as a part of a more broader communications initiative. Additionally, the counselor breakfast is being strategically scheduled for early September based on some recommendations from leadership and in order to overall maximize counselor participation and engagement. The outreach strategy for this initiative is really focusing on community college students, but for the counselor breakfast, specifically community college counselors and several transfer serving institutions. So the invitation for the counselor virtual breakfast will be distributed to all SUNY community colleges, as well as select national community college feeder institutions that have an informal relationship with Cornell due to the volume of students that we typically get from them within the college. The initiative really utilizes currently existing counselor mailing lists, institutional partnerships, and overall Zoom-based programming and advertisement on our transfer website to maximize accessibility and outreach. It's important to note again that Cornell only recruits from students from community colleges, since we're not looking to recruit students from four-year institutions, but that four-year institution students are welcome to apply, but we as an institution do not actively recruit from there. So how do I know if it will be successful? So part of the assessment plan is after the initiative, there's going to be both quantitative and qualitative measures. So the projected assessment methods is to have some post-session Qualtrics surveys and participation tracking, as well as to see overall video engagement analytics and to follow up with inquiry monitoring. So an example is some questions that we want to ask is, do I better understand Cornell's pathways? Was this information clear and accessible? What information was specifically useful in some open-ended questions that will help me gather some more additional feedback to really identify some maybe future resource needs and just overall effectiveness of the overall initiative. Because this initiative is currently in progress, the outcomes are kind of more projected based on some current implementation planning and like outreach scope. So for the project, I'm anticipating somewhere between 50 to 100 participating counselors, giving our overall relations with the SUNY system, and then engagement from both SUNY and national community partners. And I'm really hopeful that we'll have some very positive feedback for the virtual breakfast as well regarding the transfer pathways and overall accessibility and understanding of what's going on, and hoping to boost the overall advising confidence for some of our counselors in the community college side. This initiative really looks at participating in increased engagement with our websites, so increasing the Cornell pages, as well as really following up with some inquiries. So as you can see, these are some metrics and outcomes that I'm anticipating. So a moderate increase in our website engagement and an overall increase in counselor inquiries, since we don't have any, or very few amount of intentional counselor outreach on the transfer side. One of the biggest strengths for this initiative is and has always been focusing on being proactive in communication, but overall accessibility for students and counselors. Many transfer advising questions are really repetitive in nature. Specifically, sometimes students just don't read the websites, and it always comes down to eligibility, course requirements, the timelines, and the overall expectations. So by having these on-demand resources, both counselors and students can access them at any time, and they're able to more effectively find their answers without having to send emails or solely relying on Reddit or individual advising interactions to come up with the answers that they're looking for or to make assumptions. So one of the overall major success has and will be collaborating with our admissions team, our central team, as well as our college-based team and our marketing team. This is a really great partnership that we hope to develop and continue moving forward, since it's really going to help us position this initiative in a more sustainable and a more scalable. So depending on its success, there is more opportunity to continue offering more and more different sessions and topics for transfers, but possibly even develop into something else. While this initiative has some really strong progress, there are some several implementation challenges that I've identified throughout the process. Some of these challenges include coordinating with our decentralized institutional units. Because Cornell is decentralized, there are a lot of partnerships that need and meetings that need to happen in terms of make sure that this initiative is aligning with institutional goals and overall representation of Cornell as a whole. Balancing also the implementation responsibility through an active admission cycle. So for transparency reasons, we have just finished our regular decisions, as well as students have had admitted student day and have the May 1st deposit for regular decision students, and that is snapped out when the admissions team moves over to transfer reading. So implementing this during this semester has been a little bit challenging, but I'm very proud of the progress that we've made thus far. And also, I just want to ensure that the information remains consistent, concise, comprehensive, and accurate. We really believe in having something be evergreen due to the ever-changing landscape. We want to make sure that the information is short, digestible, but also accurate and that can sustain itself for a long period of time without having to be recorded or changed on an annual or a monthly basis. Additionally, counselor schedules also are a bit of a challenge. The informed decision to move it to later, closer to the early fall, is really to increase overall participation in the opportunities, given that some advisors are wrapping up course registration and advisement, trying to get students to apply for summer internships and preparing for commencement. I'm always someone that likes to dream big, so several future opportunities that I'm hoping emerge from this initiative is, and one of my recommendations is to kind of expand this beyond the College of Business as the pilot college, but to offer this for all undergraduate colleges at Cornell, from engineering to human ecology to agricultural life sciences. This will, one, make it more of an institutional-wide consistency when it comes to overall transfer communication. Another recommendation is to develop this in other languages such as Spanish, to improve accessibility to some of our bilingual students, but specifically their families, that help them navigate through the transfer process. And then, who knows, some additional opportunities could be creating a transfer student success series, and as well as partnering with our career team to showcase career outcomes for its transfer specific students, not just Cornell students in general, and just showcasing how successful our transfer students are at Cornell and just overall long-term success post-graduation. This project and initiative really reinforces the importance of transparency, accessibility, and partnership building within the transfer admissions work with both our internal and external partnerships. Community college counselors play such a critical role in supporting college students in their specific community colleges, and institutions must continue to develop accessible and more sustainable communication strategies that can help both the students and their advisors understand the transfer opportunities. Overall, this initiative really demonstrates how relevantly low cost and scalable outreach efforts can be, and can contribute to improving transfer access as a whole and strengthening institutional partnerships. I'm happy to go on and on about the importance of transfer accessibility, but if you don't believe me, feel free to check any of these amazing literature reviews as well as resources regarding the topic on overall what was used for the development and implementation of this particular project. If you maybe want to showcase this at your own institution and model this somewhere else, feel free to check out some of these resources, or feel free to reach out to me directly. My Brockport email is kyapo1@brockport.edu. Thank you so much for your time and consideration and listening to my current initiative project.